Were you ever involved in any business relationship with Mr. Preston of any kind?
No.
Are you aware of any business ventures that Mr. Preston was involved in?
No.
How would you characterize your relationship with Mr. Preston in 2008 when you were county council chair?
He was a friend in addition to being a county employee.
And did that relationship continue after you both left the employment of the county? Would you characterize yourselves as friends after you both left the employment of the county?
I would, but we haven't seen each other in months.
Mr. Thompson, my name is Lane Davis, and I represent Joey Preston in this lawsuit. I will endeavor to be more or less long-winded than
Okay.
Can you please turn to Exhibit 3 to start out?
Okay.
During your testimony earlier this afternoon, in relation to questions pertaining to Exhibit 3, you referenced some letters that were sent that were of a harassing nature. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Tell me more about those letters.
Each member of council, except for Cindy Wilson, I'm not sure. No, Bob Walker was not on the council at the time. Or was, anyway, the majority of the members of council, except for Cindy and Bob, received letters at their home saying how someone's going to sodomize you because you're on the council and not doing, there were threatening letters. Or you're going to wind up in prison where you're going to get sodomized. And very disturbing.
As early as August of 2007, people were referencing prison in these letters to county council members.
Yes.
Were the letters otherwise threatening in nature?
Yes.
Did the letters cause you pause?
Define pause.
Did they worry you?
Worried me, scared me, pissed me off.
All of the above?
All the above.
How about the other council members? Did they scare the other council members?
From what I understand, they were, yes.
With the exception of Councilwoman Wilson, of course.
Yes.
Because she didn't ever get any harassing letters.
Right.
When did the harassing letters start? Your fault.
That was the only letter that I received at my home. There was another time where a reference was made over the radio where I about to check my homeowner's insurance, which I took as a threat against my home. But I don't remember the date.
Do you recall any other instances of harassing behavior that either related to yourself or other members of the county council, Mrs. Wilson excluded?
Other harassment against other council members?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Miss Floyd was followed home one night and basically almost ran off the road.
Do you have any idea who was participating in these acts of harassment?
Person or persons were never identified.
Was the county administrator a target of such harassing behavior?
Yes, he was frequently targeted, from what I understand.
Was he followed?
It was my understanding he was followed, yes, sir.
Was it common knowledge among the county council members?
Yes, sir, it was common knowledge.
Were the county council members experiencing the same type of harassing behavior?
I mean, similar to what, Joy?
Yes, sir.
I think Joy received a higher degree of harassment.
Joey's was worse?
Yes, I would think so.
Do you know whether the harassing behavior scared Mr. Preston?
Yes, he had Bill Struett, who was the chief security officer, to basically follow him wherever he went.
Does Mr. Preston have two young boys?
Yes,
At the time, was he married?
yes,
Was the harassing behavior that we're talking about occurring while he was living with his two young boys?
yes.
Do you recall any other instances of harassment that was directed towards Mr. Preston that are along the same lines?
Direct knowledge or hearsay or anything, or
Sure. Anything.
there was one incident that came to mind where Will, that's the oldest son of Joey's, answered the phone and really,
What is your understanding was said to Mr. Preston's son, Will?
I don't recall.
Was it threatening in nature?
It was threatening in nature, and the 10-year-old boy shouldn't be hearing such stuff.
Were people calling Mr. Preston's house?
Yes, that's my understanding.
Were they threatening his kids?
They wouldn't threaten his kids per se. Will just happened to answer the phone. If I could say jerk, was just calling his house, and Will answered the phone.
It sounds like an appropriate description.
Okay. But anyway, I remember Joy talking about it.
Do you recall a point in time where Mr. Preston and Councilwoman Wilson started to butt heads?
To me, it seemed like they were butting heads from the first time I met council. I was on council, so.
And the relationship between the harassing behaviors that we talked about and the voters who support. Do you believe there's a correlation between the voters who support Ms. Wilson and the harassing behaviors we just talked about?
Yes, yes.
What is it?
Same objection.
It is my understanding that, well, it's not my understanding. I know that Ms. Wilson is a member of or associated with the Anderson County Taxpayers Association. I know this because when I first was elected to council, I was also connected with the Anderson County Taxpayers Association. And we would meet at Mr. Crow's house, that's Charles Crow, and Cindy Wilson would call in over the speakerphone, and we would have a meeting, if that's what you want to call it. Okay. And it's common knowledge. Just turn on the AM radio, and you can hear members of the Taxpayers Association. It's always the same handful of callers calling in, either belittling the council or belittling Mr. Preston because we were not following their dictation. So that's what I understand is going on.
Did the acrimony between various county council members, Mr. Preston and Councilwoman Wilson, ever spill over into open meetings?
Oh, yeah.
Did it ever spill into decisions that were being made by the county council?
Yeah. It was basically if Joy wanted it, Cindy didn't. That's basically where things flowed.
Let me show you what I'm going to mark as our next exhibit. Let me show you the actual exhibit. I'll show you where. I'll show you this email chain in which you were included at the top that dates from February 20th of 2008. And what I am interested in asking you about was, does this bottom email reference a specific project in?
Yes.
Do you recall the instance of the developer on this Powdersville commercial project expressing concern about the county council's inability to get along?
Say that again.
Well, let me refer you to the body of the February 20th email down below. In the middle of it, it says, and I quote, "He was very concerned over the Midtown Center project incentives and how this project is being handled on council floor," end quote. Do you see that?
Yes.
Do you recall in February of 2008 whether there was concern on your part about the inability of county council to get along, actually impacting economic development in Anderson County?
Yes. Yeah, that was a big concern with the majority of council. The acidic nature that existed on the council floor, and especially between Mr. Waltrip, Cindy, and Joey, and that it was harming economic development in the county.
Was the acidic environment potentially threatening economic development?
Yes, yeah, it's my understanding it was.
It's previously marked as Exhibit 4. Can you look at that for me, sir?
Okay.
If you recall, Exhibit 4 was the March 4th, 2008 email between yourself and Mr. Preston, wherein you referenced the appraisal courses. The question I have is, and maybe it's an obvious one, but did the conversation between yourself and Mr. Preston about your working for the county occur prior to your sending this email?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you recall how much prior before you sent this email?
No.
You referenced that you contacted Mr. Freeman in relation to obtaining information about appraisal courses. Do you remember that?
I spoke directly to Mr. Freeman about the notebook. Mr. Preston contacted Mr. Freeman to provide me the notebook.
When you were contacting Mr. Freeman, was there any attempt on your part to conceal that you were interested in pursuing appraisal courses?
No.
You were completely open about that, weren't you?
Yes.
Was the first time that Mr. Preston asked you to consider pursuing appraisal courses in and about March of 2008?
Yes.
Were the primaries for the 2008 election before or after this email?
Absolutely.
When were they, do you recall?
I think either June or July.
So, approximately 90 to 120 days before the primary ever occurred, had you spoken to Mr. Preston about going to work with the county?
Saying before the primary, did I speak to Mr. Preston?
Yes, sir.
Yes, the answer is yes.
It was about approximately 90 to 120 days before the primary even occurred, right?
Yes.
And at that time, did Mr. Preston ask you to consider pursuing the appraisal courses?
Yes. He brought it up into conversation, yes.
Did Mr. Preston tell you at that time why he felt like you were a good candidate for a job with the county?
Yes, he did.
Was it because you are a veteran of the United States Navy?
No.
Was that in part one of the reasons?
Could have been. I remember specifically it was my master's degree and my experience in real estate. And that's why he recommended the assessor's office. And That's when he recommended the appraiser courses.
Did you also have 9 years of purchasing experience?
Yeah.
Did you also understand the inner workings of Anderson County?
I hope so. 4 years on the council, I hope so.
Or during your earlier line of questioning, you mentioned some non-profit organizations where you served on the board. What were they?
I served on the board of directors for the Anderson Area Chamber of Commerce. I served on the board of directors for the Appalachian Council of Government. I was on the Economic Development Committee and an alternate for the Executive Committee. I served on the something Anderson, mind slipping, something Anderson, Interact Anderson, Activate Anderson, in which I served on the Executive Committee. I served on the Board of Directors for the Work-Linked Investment Board. It seemed like I'm leaving something out, but it's not coming to me. On WorkLink, I was on the Administrative and Budget Committee.
Let me turn your attention to Exhibit 5. First question, what time of day was this email sent by you to Mr. Preston?
5:43 p.m.
Second question I have for you is, did Mr. Preston specifically respond to this email?
He scolded me.
Did he tell you not to use
Yeah.
county emails for this type of request?
Yeah, he scolded me.
Did Mr. Preston actually use his personal time with respect to any efforts he may have?
That's my understanding.
Do you have any knowledge of any time when Mr. Preston used public resources or public time to help you with your campaign?
No,
That didn't happen, did it?
not to my knowledge.
Can you look at Exhibit 7 for me?
Okay.
I may be missing it, but does your name actually appear on this?
I don't see it.
Is it omitted because, as Mr. Preston told you, you are going to be considered for this position?
That was my understanding, because he needed to promote from within, or well, he needed to promote people, I should say.
I want to turn your attention to Exhibit 8, and also,
8?
yes, sir, and also to the August of 2008 time frame. And I'm going to ask you some questions that I'll apologize for in advance. I mean no offense by them, I just need to know the information. When you were asked about Exhibit 8 earlier, you testified, and I quote, that you needed a job. Is that right?
Okay, yes.
Were you having financial difficulties at the time?
I need insurance when I come off of council.
Why did you need insurance?
We have lots of medication that we need to buy
For what?
for my wife.
What's the matter with your wife?
High blood pressure, we go on just ailments.
Yeah, sure. Do you have any yourself?
Yes.
What is your health problem?
Acid reflux, they call it GERD. heart palpitation, SVT, high cholesterol.
At this point in time, you needed employment, correct?
Yes.
Did Mr. Preston know you needed employment?
Yes, I spoke to him back in March.
Were council members Wilson and Waldrop the type of people who were known to disseminate confidential information to the public when they should not have?
Yes, yes.
Did council member Wilson ever disseminate information that you believed was confidential?
Yes,
Did you do it publicly?
yes,
How about Mr. Waldrop?
yes. Can I go into detail?
Sure.
Okay. Mr. Preston's personal credit card number was disseminated, and that wound up on the Anderson newspaper, Anderson Independent Mail website. Okay. County credit card numbers in general was disseminated, and they ended up spread out all over county. Those cards had to be canceled, and new cards had to be issued. There was an issue where, as chairman, I disseminated some information to council, and I purposely marked it confidential, with a red stamp. It showed up on the Independent Mail's website with a confidential stamp on it. So here you have a confidential document marked confidential on the website, and had no business being marked. So it was knowledge that they disseminated stuff that they shouldn't be disseminating.
You'll stop it.
Now, as of August of 2008, was your financial position something you felt the public needed to know about?